All right, so to continue with the story, I'm not going to go too much into details about all that stuff now. Now I'm just going to kind of go into with Malik getting my basketball videos. So I'm in Kauai. I'm posting my Quadramile stuff, but my mom had my password, so she's hiding all of it. But I didn't know she had my password. And like I said, I'm getting conflict with my grandpa. I tell my grandpa, hey, my grandpa was trying to teach me about metapsychiatry, transcending the ego, but I didn't understand it. He didn't teach me well. So I was still a communist, and I was thinking that his teachings were just bullshit. That's really what I thought. I thought that my grandpa was just teaching bullshit. And I thought he was just a white supremacist Nazi, and I thought Christianity was white supremacy, and religion was white supremacy, and it's just to maintain the status quo. I was basically a Marxist. I was like a Freudian Marxist. And so I'm trying to get the Quadramile stuff out, but my mom's deleting all my stuff, or hiding all my stuff, because she has my password. And I didn't know that. And my sister had my password too, so you could ask my mom and my sister. They did that. So then I'm trying to get the Quadramile stuff out. So I go on INTP Central, and the people on INTP Central are like, I'm telling them, hey, look at my Facebook. I got all my quadrant stuff there. Check it out. I discovered the theory of everything. But then they're saying like, dude, are you schizophrenic? Like, are you crazy? Because they were looking at my Facebook, but I had nothing on it. Because my mom was hiding all of it, but I didn't even know that. So then I start to be like, okay, well, people aren't taking the quadrant model seriously. I didn't know that my mom was hiding all my quadrant model stuff. So then I just start to post my ideas about religion so this is what I had discovered when I was on Kauai. So my thesis was that, because I wanted to destroy religion, I especially wanted to destroy Christianity because I saw it as white supremacist. I thought to maintain division, that Christianity was just a way to justify the separation of white people and brown people, because the brown people were Muslims and the black people were Muslims and the Christians were white, and by maintaining the separate religions, it maintained division. But I wanted race mixing because I saw myself as Jewish, and I was always against the white people. So I wanted race mixing, and I thought, destroy religion, because religion is what divides people mainly. And then I'll mix the white people and destroy the white people. So my basic thesis was that Christianity was just a trick to destroy the Roman Empire and to defeat. So it was an anti-white thing. The Romans I saw as white, and it was a way for the Jews to defeat the white people. And so my thesis was this. Like I said, Jesus, he dies on the cross. Then the Roman centurion's like, he truly was a son of God. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's what defeated the Romans, because before the Romans were going to destroy the Jews. But then they were converted to Christianity. And what did Paul say? Paul said, don't kill the Jews. Give the Jews resources. He said, we gave you material blessings, spiritual blessings. Now you give us material blessings. And I was like, okay, it was just a trick. What the Jews did was Paul or whoever, they invented the stories of Jesus. And, I didn't really even want to believe that Jesus existed. I wanted to completely undermine Christianity. In my eyes, I thought Jesus was a fictional character. But I thought, regardless if he was, but if he was a real character, I wanted to believe he was a communist. Because I was like, yeah, he's a communist if he even existed. Because I was a communist and I wanted to destroy Christianity. I saw as white supremacists. I wanted to mix the races. So I wanted to completely undermine Christianity. So I'm like, yeah, Jesus, they Paul or whoever, they converted because Paul says, all the Jews in the end will be saved. He says this to the Romans or whoever he's writing the letters to. He's like, all the Jews will be saved, but you Gentiles who are grafted in, you might be ungrafted and you might not be saved. But the Jews who did not believe, they will be saved in the end. And I was like, again, this is confirmation of my grandpa's teachings. Like the Jews didn't believe, but I was like, yes, well, it's good that they didn't believe, because belief is not the flow. So that's why the Jews are the chosen people, because they're super smart and superior, and by nature they don't believe, and therefore they don't believe. But that means that they can be more closer to the flow. But in the end, the Gentiles who believed, who were not really in the flow, but they just believed, they will be grafted out. And I was like, yeah, Christianity was really just a trick that the Jews gave the Romans to give them a pro-Jewish religion, so that the white people would give the Jews back Israel. It was just to save the Jews. Because, like I said, the Jews say, put the blood on us when Pontius Pilate is going to kill Jesus. And I was like, yeah, that's the Passover lamb. The Passover lamb, the blood of the Passover lamb is supposed to cure people of their sins. And what is the sins? What is the consequence of sin? Death. The Jews were supposed to die due to their sins, due to their non-belief. And I was like, but non-belief is good because it's closer to the flow, as my grandpa taught. Like, the good is bad and the bad is good. But I was like, but the Jews were saved because of Jesus. His blood was washed on them, and he converted their enemies who were going to kill them to not kill them. So they went from death to life. It was just a trick. And like I said, I started showing in the New Old Testament, like same thing happened with Joseph. The Jews were supposed to die, but then he converts the Egyptians to worship him essentially as a god, because they did worship him as a god. And I was like, and it destroyed Egypt. And what does the Bible say? The Egyptians gave the Jews material blessings. They gave them gold because they were scared of the Jews afterwards. And the Jews were saved and the Egyptians were destroyed. And I was like, same thing happened with Rome. The Romans went from wanting to kill the Jews to giving them material blessings because Paul told them to, due to Christianity. I was like, it's a trick to save the Jews. So I wanted to completely undermine Christianity. I said the same thing happened with the Ninevites when Jonah converted them. And so I was like, it's just a trick. So I start showing these ideas, but I'm posting them on INTP Central, but I go way more into detail about Elijah, about Elisha. And I'm like, and Jesus was a communist, when he multiplied bread, that was just a metaphor of telling people to share. Because again, I was a communist and I wanted open borders and the white people to share with the brown people. And, so because I really wanted the white people to mix and to defeat the white people. I was, as my grandpa said, I was parasitic on the white race. I wanted to destroy the white race because I saw myself as Jewish. I saw the Jews as more people of color. And I saw the white people as, the biggest threat to the Jews. And I wanted race mixing. I thought that's the way to defeat the white people. So I was just a communist. So it's stupid that's the way I was, but that's the way I was, And so I start to share these ideas, my anti-religious ideas and my anti-Christian ideas, but then also I think that, in my mind, I was like, okay, well, there's 4 personality types. There's the NFs, who are the idealists. Then there's the guardian SJs. Then there's the SP artisans, and then there's the NT rationals. And I'm an NT rational, and I wanted to be like, the NFs who are like Kanye West is an NF. And, those people who they tend to be more spiritual. But in my mind, I thought spirituality was just white supremacy. And spirituality, NFs are the first quadrant. And the first quadrant and the second quadrant are more spiritual and religious, whereas the third quadrant and the fourth quadrant are more destruction. And I was like, well, I'm fourth quadrant. And that's why I don't even believe in any spirituality, because I just I'm a knower, and I recognize, and I wanted to make the NTs and everybody think that being anti-religious and is actually makes you really smart, right? So I'm like, yeah, I don't believe. Belief is not the flow. And, people like Kanye West or, at that time, are like people like that, they're more spiritual, but spirituality is really just maintains the status quo. I was a Marxist, so it just maintains the status quo, and it maintains white supremacy, and it maintains, division and stuff. And spirituality really is just, denial and wishful thinking and it's just bullshit. And so I wanted to just completely uproot religion because I saw religion as creating division, and I wanted to destroy division because I wanted to mix the races, right? So I was basically a Satanist because now I know. I didn't know at the time. I thought that I was a good guy because I thought that the white people were evil, and I wanted to mix the white people. I thought that I was the good guy, but now I know I was basically like Satanist because I studied Hinduism, and in Hinduism, Shukracharya, he wants to mix the demons and the demigods, and the demons represent the Dravidian nations and the races, and the demigods represent the Aryan races, the Brahmin caste, which were the Aryans. And in Shukracharya's anti-religion, he wants them to mix. I was just like Shukracharya, who's Satan, who's the planet Venus, the morning star, who's Satan. He's the guru of the demons, and that's the way I was. So I'm like, dude, I was like basically satanic. So I'm like, okay, but that's what I wanted. I wanted to mix the races and defeat the white race. But my grandpa would say it was by dualistic software. I had dualistic predator-prey software toward the white race, and I hadn't transcended the ego to see things as they really are, So, but I wanted to so I'll get to this. So I'm basically undermining religion, and I think that this also hurt my grandpa because my grandpa's like, then my grandpa, after this, he tried to become even more rational. Like, I don't believe in magic. I just believe everything's energy. And Jesus didn't do any magic. He just could manipulate the energy. But I'll get to that more later because later, like I tried to explain to my grandpa, no, grandpa, the truth is the quadrant model. And yes, there is synchronicities and there is like magical stuff. Like we're in like a dream world. And you can, there is that type of stuff. And the quadrant is really powerful. But my grandpa's like, that seems like magical thinking. I'm very rational. Like, because I used to make fun of him because of being irrational, and I'm a rational NT. But he's like, I'm very rational. No, there's no synchronicities. That's just more wishful thinking, I think. And I'm like, dude, grandpa, you don't understand reality. So anyways, but my point is, I wanted race mixing. And this was all the way up, every time I was a Marxist, all the way up to like 2020s, That was essentially it. So I was very much for welfare. My grandpa was an Ayn Rand fan. He was against welfare. But I was for it because I'm like, oh, those are just white supremacists who are against welfare because they want to maintain their power and not give to the poor, who tend to be more the people of color. And I want open borders. And it's the only people, only the religious people are just racists who I didn't even think that, they're just racist and they just maintain Christianity because it creates division and it maintains the white race. And, that's the way I saw it. So I want to destroy Christianity. So my thesis was this, and I'm expounding it and I'm promulgating it, that Christianity is just was a trick, It was basically, I will say, it's basically a Darwinian trick for the Jewish genetic race to defeat the Aryan genetic race, the white race, So that was my thesis, and in my mind, and I was explaining it, I was like, the only thing that could create peace on earth is everybody mixed, because really religion is just a epiphenomena of Darwinism, because different groups adopt different religions to maintain division, to maintain their genetic stock. So I was just basically trying to undermine religion and promote race mixing. So I'm posting these ideas, which is stupid. But again, why was I doing this though? In the back of my mind, I wanted my basketball video. So I was talking to my mom. This is at the beginning of when I was in Kauai, and I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, can you help me get basketball videos of when I was younger? Because I wanted to study the swag flow. As I said, when I was in college, this is the first time I had studied the swag flow. And the first time I had seen the swag flow, because I looked at videos and I saw the swag flow, and I wanted to, and then I became aware of it and I lost it. I'm not going to get into what the swag flow is, but I wanted basketball videos. So I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, can you help me get basketball videos when I'm younger? This is when I'm in Kauai. My mom's in Los Angeles. My mom's like, oh my God, you still care about basketball? Get over the past. You're stuck in the fucking past. This is why you're schizophrenic. No. So my grandpa's whole thing was like, yes, if you're in the flow, you're not talking about the past. And again, I thought this was another white supremacy thing, because my grandpa, when we watched like a Holocaust movie, he was like, well, sometimes it would be best if people don't always talk about that type of stuff, because if you're in the flow, you let go of the past, and yes, those things happen, but they happen due to dualistic software, and we can transcend that software, but always rehashing the past, like slavery and Holocaust and stuff, that maintains dualistic software, and sometimes it's best to just be in the moment, be in the now. And I was like, dude, that's just white supremacy. Your spirituality is just white supremacy. It's just to maintain the status quo. And yes, we know it's important to talk about the past so you can mitigate it. And yes, the Jews and the black people were mistreated, so therefore you should give reparations and you should give welfare and all that type of stuff, because I wanted race mixing. I wanted to defeat the white people. And the white people, in my mind, I wanted to believe the white people were bad and the white people are just evil, but later when I become more of a right winger, I'm like, well, maybe the people of color, it's more complicated than just the white man is evil. But when I was a leftist Marxist, that's what I wanted to believe. Oh, the white man's just evil, and my grandpa, when he's talking about just being in the moment, that's a white supremacy thing about like, oh, stop talking about slavery and you should just get over the past. I'm like, that's just white supremacy, dude. But so, I wanted to get basketball videos when I was younger, because I wanted to study the swag flow. And even my grandpa would say that was a noble pursuit. But my mom didn't understand that, because my grandpa had told me after the abuse that happened to me, my grandpa told me, okay, well, the best thing, Ryan, is just never talk about the past. Don't bring up the past ever. What happened, but just be in the eternal moment and never bring up the past. Never talk to your mom and dad about the past, and just be in the moment and expand your awareness. There is no moment, there is no time, but be in the eternal moment and expand your awareness. And so I wasn't allowed to talk about the past. So I'm telling my mom, like, Mom, I'd like to get basketball videos. Can you and Dad help me get basketball videos of when I was younger? And my mom was like, no, you're stuck in the past. This is why you have schizophrenia. I didn't have schizophrenia. I never did. But this is why you have schizophrenia. You're stuck in the past. Get over the past. But I really, if I could have got the basketball videos of when I was younger, I could have studied the swag flow. I could have got the swag flow better. And I could have gotten back into basketball too. I could have studied my shot. I could have done all that stuff. And I would have gotten back into basketball better. And like I said, I can only rap when I'm playing basketball too. So that I would have been rapping, playing basketball. And I needed to study the swag flow because I wanted to study, because I had fan clubs of girls. I wanted to study that. and I wanted to study because my grandpa would be like, well, this is your ego. It's not because I had fan clubs of girls that I wanted. It's because I want to study it. I want to know what it was. I want to know it. I want to study it. I want, but my grandpa, it's just fucking, I'll get more into this, but so I'm trying to tell my mom, like, can you help me? My mom, no, yeah, you're fucking loser. You're still stuck in the past. You still care about basketball. What are you, 23 years old, you fucking loser? So again, my mom hated me since high school because in high school, she was already in this antagonism, animosity toward me because of the shoot away machine. So I'm telling my mom, like, Mom, please, can I talk to Dad? I said, let me talk to Dad. And my mom's like, he's not going to talk to you. Your dad fucking hates you. He wants nothing to do with you. He's embarrassed he has a schizophrenic loser son. And I'm like, Mom, I don't have schizophrenia, Mom. And my mom's like, yes, you do. You're a fucking schizophrenic freak. You're a fucking freak. And I'm like, Mom, please, let me talk to Dad. And Mom was like, he's not going to talk to you. Don't you remember how you treated him in high school? And I was like, Mom, what happened in high school, and this is the first time I ever brought it up. I said, I figured out what happened. It was the shoot away machine. It messed up my shot. My mom was like, the shoot away machine? Oh my God, you don't take responsibility for anything. You're such a fucking loser. You think the shoot away machine messed up your shot? Oh my God, it wasn't the shoot. You don't take responsibility for anything. Oh my God, you're such a if anything, the shoot away machine helped you, would have helped you. What happened was you couldn't handle the pressure and you fell apart and you started to become mentally ill. And that started in high school. And you couldn't handle the pressure and you started to become mentally ill. And that's what happened to your shot. It wasn't the shoot away machine. And I was like, Mom, it was the shoot away machine. I have videos I could oh my God, get over the past. This is why you have schizophrenia. Get over the past. You're such a fucking loser freak. You're a fucking freak. I'm like, let me talk to Dad. He's never going to talk to you. You have to accept that. You have to accept that. He's never going to talk to you. He fucking hates you. And again, my mom's talking about that. You have to accept that because in high school, when my shot got messed up, I was trying to get my dad to help me. And he was helping me. But then when he would stop helping me, my grandpa comes in. He's like, Ryan, if your dad makes a bad call, you have to accept it. You just have to accept it. So my mom was like, yeah, Ryan, you have to accept it. You just have to accept it. Instead of, like I said, what my grandpa could have done was he could have come in and been like, hey, yeah, Ryan, accepting things is good sometimes, but also it's important to not make bad calls, Yes, sometimes it's good to accept bad calls, and sometimes that's the best thing to do, but also my grandpa could have encouraged my mom and dad to not make bad calls, and he could have helped to upgrade their software and to be better people. But my grandpa would say there is no person, so you can't make a better person, you can just make a more beneficial presence, whatever. It gets complicated. But but my mom's thinking that she's following my grandpa's advice. And my mom's like, you need to fucking go to a doctor. You have schizophrenia. You need to talk to a doctor and start taking medicine. And she's an idiot. So I'm trying to I'm like, Mom, please, just let me talk to Dad. No! And I'd like to get videos of when I was younger, please. No! You're not going to get why do you care about the past? You're 23. You care about the fucking past? You care about basketball, you fucking loser? Get a life! So my mom was telling me that I needed to go to the doctor and get Social Security. Because she's like, you have schizophrenia. You're never going to be able to work. You need to get Social Security. So I was like, okay, whatever. So my mom's not helping me. And then I'm stuck with my grandpa. Okay? So I go to my grandpa and I tell my grandpa, hey, Grandpa, can you please help me to talk to my dad? Because I want my dad to help me get basketball videos when I was younger. Like I said, I was too afraid to ask people for the basketball videos. Okay? But my grandpa was like, well, I think that the most important thing is that you're independent type of thing. So my grandpa was this is the problem. My grandpa was telling my parents, like, Ryan didn't really discover the theory of everything, the quadrant model. He just made this up because he just wants to stay independent. Are dependent on you guys, and he doesn't, because, maybe he's a fragile ego, he doesn't want independence, so he made this up to stay dependent on you guys. Because my grandpa's whole thing is, like, be dependent, or be independent, because independence is a part of the flow. And again, it's a white, I always thought it was a white supremacy thing, because it's like, his whole thing is like, no welfare, never be dependent on people. And I always thought that was white supremacy, but it's like, just be in the flow and be independent. And I'm like, dude, I need to talk to mom and dad. I need their help, man. But my grandpa's telling my mom and dad, like, well, Ryan really wants his independence. Now, my grandpa tells me that he wasn't trying to tell them to completely throw me to the side, which I think that he did kind of, because he didn't believe me about the Quad model. He did probably think I was crazy. He did want my dad to just throw me to the side and cast me out. But my grandpa's like, I didn't tell them to just completely, throw you to the side and everything, but, I was just saying that, you need to get a job, be independent, and that's going to help you be in the flow. But anyway, so my grandpa's telling them that I need to be independent and be in the flow and everything, right? So my mom and dad interpret that as, okay, let's never talk to him again. Let's throw him to the side. Let's get him out of our lives. Let's be emotionally distant and hurtful and evil to him and not talk to him and be just completely, terrible to him. And that's what would be best for Ryan. Because they misinterpreted my grandpa. Even my grandpa says, I told my grandpa later, I'm like, Grandpa, you really contributed to this. And he's like, well, I know, I cast pearls the swine. And I'm like, okay, well, you cast pearls the swine, my mom and dad. Okay, well, can you tell them that they made a mistake? And can you, try to help them to see that it's not beneficial what they're doing? And he's like, well, you don't give answers unless questions are asked, and they haven't asked any questions. And I'm like, well, you gave answers before questions were asked. He's like, I know, I cast pearls of swine. I made a mistake, but I'm not going to continue making that mistake. So basically what my grandpa did was he set up conditions to where I'm going to be neglected and thrown to the side. And instead of trying to, overcompensate for that and undo it, he just let it go. And he maintained it by being like, oh, I can't do anything to change it because they haven't asked any questions, even though I set up the conditions before they asked questions in the first place, but I cast pearls of swine, but I'm not going to try to mitigate it in any way. So my grandpa basically set up conditions for me to be isolated on Kauai. And like I said, he did the same thing in high school. I needed help. I needed support. And my grandpa's like, oh, Ryan just wants independence. And, I felt like he just set up conditions that were very harmful for me. And that's why I was always like, dude, my grandpa's the worst psychologist in history. I always saw him as just a white supremacist, and I thought that his ideas are basically just victim blaming and terrible for victims. If you're a victim, you do not want my grandpa to help you. You do not want my grandpa to be your psychologist. So I'll continue.